Hello, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ryal Thomas. This evening we have a very, very good, positive topic. We have two individuals with us by the name of Mrs. Sherry Cotton, along with her daughter, Miss Connie Cotton. They have started a blog, and the blog is actually titled A Mother's Journey Through Addiction and Recovery. But the title of the show tonight is called How a Mother Loves Her Addict. But before we actually get started here, I want to just say, if you have any friends or any loved ones out there that you feel that this show would be of some interest, please give them a call right now and tell them to tune in. But I want to start off again with Mrs. Sherry Cotton. I want you to tell us about the blog and how did that come about. I know that you have thousands of viewers, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure, thank you. It started with me getting to the place of, I think I'm ready to share my story. And the reason I want to share my story is because when all of this happened to us, with us, I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know what to do. I knew nothing about addiction. And it was pretty isolating and scary. So I feel like I kind of had to bumble and fumble my way through. So I want to see what I can do to help another mother coming behind me that's going to have to deal with this too. And mainly make them help them know they're not alone and give hope. That's really why I started it.
Wow. And the response has been overwhelming?
Yes, way more than I expected, for sure. It's exploded, and the private messages that have come in have been huge and overwhelming, but a blessing, and just to be able to not give solutions to anybody, but just to talk with people and let them know I get it.
All right.
They just want to be heard.
All right. And
Yeah.
Connie, come on in with this and talk a little bit about how your mother made you feel by getting involved with your addiction.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us on. So
You're more than welcome.
before my mom started Plan B, the blog, she talked to me about that and made sure I was okay with that because it was very much involving me. So she got my consent before she started any of it. But my mom has been in my life to a point for my whole life, but there were years where we had nothing like this. You know, we were not close, and she was barely in my life at all. And that came from me because I was so deep in my addiction that I cut pretty much everyone who cared about me out of my life. And since I've been in recovery, I've had my mom back in my life, and that's been amazing. And it's kind of been a journey together. We've both been learning a lot about addiction and recovery as I go, and so I was really happy that I'm thrilled that she's involved in my recovery.
I had to get her, permission, like, are you okay? Because I didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize her recovery. And she not only gave me her okay, she encouraged me. She's like, you really should do this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started.
And it started as just my mom posting some written blog posts on our Facebook page, Plan B. And then she asked me if I would do a video with her. And so we did a video, and we talked about the first time when she got the phone call that I was in jail, when I called her from the jail. And since then, the response was overwhelming after that. And so we started doing more videos together, and it became more of a joint effort, and it's turned into a really beautiful thing. So
Yeah, I think this is beautiful. I think it's great because there's a lot of parents out there and a lot of children out there, I should say, that needs that bond, needs that support, needs that help and everything. So were there ever any times where you felt like maybe this is too much for you, or did you ever feel like, what am I doing? Or Mom, did you ever feel like, I'm going to give up on this? Or did you just tell me about that a little bit? Did you have some down times, in the first
with her?
Yes.
I never felt like I was going to give up. I never did, but I seriously wondered if she would make it. I did, and I was scared, and also just not understanding, like I didn't even know that relapse is a normal part of recovery.
Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So when a relapse came along, I was devastated. But since then, I've learned that I should have expected that probably. But I never ever was like, I'm done with this. Never felt that way.
There were times where I definitely gave up on myself, and I expected others to as well. There have been several suicide attempts in the last several years of my life, and it's a miracle that I'm alive today from that and a lot of other experiences. But yeah, I definitely gave up on myself, and when I got into recovery, that was the most important part, was finding hope again. And that's really why we're here, is to give other people hope. I didn't see a way out of the misery I was living in. I didn't imagine that my life could ever get any better. I couldn't picture it. And that's what I want to tell other people, is that it can get better.
Yeah.
You know, it does get better. There is hope for you no matter who you are. So.
Right. When do you feel, as with your mom getting involved, and other family members getting involved, do you feel that contributed to you getting straight and staying straight, knowing that you have the support of your family?
Definitely. My family's support has been hugely helpful in my recovery and keeping me alive through all of it. But there were times where I didn't allow that. You know, there were years where my family wasn't really even in my life because I removed myself completely from them. But since I've been in recovery, my family's support has been huge. It means the world to me. So I'm grateful I was able to get my family back and build a relationship with my mom that we never had before.
Wow.
There were times that would go weeks and months that I literally didn't know where she was. Even when she was supposedly living at home, I would, 13, 14 days go by and I don't know where she is. I don't know if she's alive. So her way, in her addiction, she would just disappear. And that was her way, I think, of trying to protect us from what she was doing so we couldn't see.
All right.
So.
Let's talk a little bit about the hurt and pain. So it may be someone watching that may be going through the same thing that Connie has gone through, and may need to hear the pain that they're putting their parents through. So tell me a little bit about some of the pain, if you don't mind.
I would say the first pain is that horrible feeling that, oh my God, what did I do wrong?
Whoa.
I think that's what every parent would think, is like, what did we do wrong? What do we not give? What do we not support? What should we have done differently? That's the pain. And it was a long ways into it before I realized, like, actually, this isn't my fault. So there's that pain. And then there's a pain of watching her be in pain and not herself, and just circling the drain and doing all kinds of horrible things. And I know she's not happy. So, but you can't do anything. I can't fix it. That's hard, because that's what a parent wants to do, and we cannot do that. So that's a lot of the pain. And then I remember there were a few years that my husband and I would metaphorically flip a coin every morning to see who was going to go up and see if she was alive that morning. Wow. So living like that, that's a lot of, yeah, that's
a lot.
That was rough, yeah.
That's a lot. And Connie, when did you make the decision? What made that snap come and say, okay, enough is enough? When did you hit, I don't know what the lowest would be, but when did you hit rock bottom, where your instincts took in and you started to realize that, hey, this has to stop? When did that happen?
I wish I could say this was just a magical moment where I just flipped the switch and then everything was great after that, but it was more of a process. That process started when I was in jail. I was in jail for a few months, and that started then. And then I got out of jail into drug treatment court program, and that process continued a little more, but I think the biggest shift in that was my last relapse, and that was just a little over 9 months ago. I was out for a week. I was gone for a week, and it was a good reminder that I would never want to live like that again.
So it touched you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, and if this is too personal, you don't have to address it, but what do you feel made you go in the direction of drugs?
think my addiction started long before I was ever addicted to a substance. You know, I battled with depression for years when I was younger, a young teenager. That started, and that kind of just escalated, and my addiction started with self-harm before I ever touched a drug, and I started drinking really early, and it was just a way to cope with life that I couldn't deal with feelings that I didn't know how to deal with, and it was just something to make it feel better for a little bit, get away from it for a little bit. And so if that's your only mindset, is to escape this feeling because I can't feel this, I can't deal with this feeling, so I have to escape it, then yeah, it makes sense that it escalated pretty quickly.
Right. What type of advice would you give someone out there who may be flirting with addiction? I mean, flirting with substance abuse, I should say. What would your advice be to someone? Because you may know the signs, you may know the feelings. And for mothers out there who do not know, what their children may be going through, are there certain signs that a parent can look for in a child?
I think the first biggest sign for me was just isolating.
Yeah.
I was not able to connect with family and friends that I'd always been able to connect with, and isolating was really big, and then just disappearing all the time, and I think I just became I was not myself, and I think my mother would be able to answer that question a little better. But as for advice to somebody flirting with addiction, you say, one is too many, and look at why you're using whatever substance you're using, or why you're drinking. Look at why it is. What are you running from?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, what are you running from? Yeah, why
That's
do you have to do
usually
this?
something.
Beyond that, I don't really do a whole lot of advice, but yeah.
I understand.
But it will suck you in like you wouldn't believe. So.
Yeah. Now, Sherry, when did you realize that your daughter was having a problem? When did it finally hit you that, okay, we have a problem now?
I knew for a couple of years we had a problem. I just didn't know what it was.
Oh.
I didn't know, I wasn't even able to use the word addict until she was in jail or right out of jail. I knew she had done drugs, but I didn't know to what extent, what they were. Now, looking back, I realized when she would come home, I'm like, man, you look exhausted. She was high. I didn't know the difference. I really didn't. So what I would say for parents is educate yourselves.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then the other thing is talking. Trying to. You can only communicate as much as someone is willing to, but that, and then getting support. I've learned a lot through some support groups, and learning about addiction and learning about boundaries, and all of that has been a huge help for me in dealing with her addiction. And she's in recovery, and basically I've had to be in recovery myself in just being able to do it with her. And it's been hard, but it's been a privilege to get to do that, and I've learned so much, and that is why I want to do this. I want to share it because I don't want another mom to feel like I felt. And the other thing,
Whoa.
I think there's so much shame involved with drug abuse, drug addiction, more so than other addictions maybe, and because of the shame and the stigma, then nobody talks about it. So then who do I know to go to when I'm dealing with this with my daughter, because no one talks about it. So I want to lift that stigma. I want to change that to what degree I can, and the shame, and like, it's real, it's happening, why can't we talk about it?
Right, right. Now, when other parents are looking at their children, knowing that something may be going on in their life that may not be in the best interest of their child, what advice as far as love goes, as far as showing them love, or do you back off and let them kind of see what they're doing, or do you immediately jump in and say, you know I love you, what are you doing? How do you make them face reality, or do you let their reality come to you?
What a great question. And I think it's kind of all of the above. But first of all, I learned I can't make anybody do anything, even a minor, even house rules or something. I can't make her do anything. I can't make her see her problem and, don't you want to get help? I can't make her do that. So for me, it was just, you never stop loving, never stop trying to support, offer solutions or tools or resources or therapy, counseling, that kind of stuff. And then there's a huge degree that you have to just step back and let it happen. Or then that word, the enabling.
Yeah.
Because if I try to rescue her, which is a natural go-to as a parent,
Right.
I see the road she's going down, and I know what the end of that's going to look like, and I don't want her to do that, so let me try to stop it. I can't do that. If I can, then I'm just preventing her hitting her bottom. So I'm rescuing her, which is not helping her. So I learned a lot about that, stepping back, and she has to do this journey herself, and I had to let her do it. And that's brutal watching that. It really is.
Right.
And every time something bad would happen, I remember thinking, well, maybe this is the bottom. Yes, this is her bottom.
Every
Yeah.
bottom has a basement, though. Every rock bottom has a basement.
It did. It really did. And so jail was her rock bottom. And that was the first time I slept. I mean, those 75, 76 days she was in jail, I slept better than I had in a couple of years. Because I knew where she was.
Yeah.
And that she was safe.
When I called her, and when we covered this in a video on Plan B, but when I called her and said I'm in jail, after I'd been in there a couple days, she said, "Thank God." I was so mad.
She was a little offended.
Yeah.
But then it made me really sad, because what you had to have been feeling to feel, thank God, that I was in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put my mother in that position, and that she was thankful that I went to jail.
Yeah, I think you said something very important, Sherry, in regards to, you said always show love. I think at some point, when someone is using drugs, I think when there's a sober moment or a moment of realistic love that a mother or any parent shows to their children, I think sometimes that can be the foundation of, what am I doing?
Right. It gradually gets through to you.
Yeah. It gets through like.
And I think
what
it
am I
may be
doing?
something that's always there in the back of their mind that they know they can
Right.
fall back on, that it's always going to be there, even if they don't necessarily think they want it, that it's going to be there.
Well, and kind of, let's see, now you look absolutely great, and you look absolutely great, so I know you don't want to go back in that other direction, but
Right.
what are some of the, not getting to talk about everything, but what are some of the negative activities that you see that can deter other individuals from possibly entering into that cycle of addiction?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I mean,
Rephrase it.
what are some of the things that you may see in a life of drugs and stuff that, you don't have to get personal. Just what are some of the things that you see? You can just put
Right.
certain things together for individuals out there that may, oh my God, I don't want to experience that,
Right.
or something like that. But you don't need to get personal with stuff.
Well, kind of the foundation of our blog is getting personal. So
Well, then get
I'm
personal.
not too opposed, but I think the worst thing about my years in active addiction was I completely lost any sense of self-respect. And my entire life became about getting and using drugs and finding ways and means to get more. And so that means whatever it takes.
Right.
And that's a miserable way to live.
Right.
It's a
Right.
miserable way to live. It was miserable. And there were months at a time where I didn't know where I was going to sleep every single night. It was throughout the day that I figured out where I was going to sleep that night. And then the next day I was starting over with that process and figuring out how I can stay high throughout that time. It creates a cycle of misery really quickly. I didn't plan on living to my 21st birthday. I'm 22 now. But in active addiction, my entire life was about trying to get and stay high because I could not handle my emotions and feelings and I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with life. And so it was anything to change how I felt. And that took a lot of different forms, but primarily that was drugs at that point in my life. And
in order to do that, you have to cut out people in your life that would try to stop you from doing that.
Right.
So in other words, you would have to hang around other individuals who are on the same path.
Right. And so when you're willing to do anything to get your next high, then that creates a pretty miserable life pretty fast. I was involved in a lot of crime, a lot of violence. I saw a lot of death.
Whoa.
I saw more death before I got clean, I saw more death in the last year before that than I ever have before or since. And I saw people almost die and come back, OD, and then I saw people OD and never come back. I lost a lot of people who I knew.
Through addiction.
Yeah, from addiction.
Yeah.
And in addiction, there's so much, and every time you'll always say, that won't be me. It won't look like that. And, well, if I ever hit that point, I'll know I'm an addict or a fiend or whatever. You know, if I hit that point, that's bad. I'm not like those people because they're at that point. Every line you draw like that I'll never be like that, you'll cross that line and you'll draw a new one.
Whoa.
And I crossed every one of those lines.
So it's like you're in denial for...
Oh, constantly. You can't not be to continue to live that way. You can't acknowledge the way you're living and continue to live that way. Or I couldn't. So every time I drew a line like, well, I'll never do that, or I'll never be like those people, I crossed that line and I drew another one. Well, I did this, but I'll never do that. And so that escalates really quickly. That escalates from, yeah.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about how do you feel now? We've been talking a little bit about the negative. Let's talk about the positive now. Like, what's going on through your mind now? What's going on through your mind, Mom? What does your future look like? With your relationship with your family, what does your future look like because you're still young, with your education, with your job. So talk to me a little bit about how you feel.
Well, for 2 years ago, if you had told me and my mother would be as close as we are, not even like sitting here today, but just the friendship we have now,
right.
I would have laughed at you and walked away. But I have a bond with my mother now. I have a relationship with her, and that's amazing, and that's beautiful. And the fact that we came from where our relationship was to being here today, it's a beautiful gift. I have healthy relationships all around me in my life. I have my family, my dad's here in the audience. My entire family I've gotten close to again, and that's a beautiful gift. I have healthy relationships. I have a steady job. I've held a job for almost a year.
Well, that's good. That's good. We have some income coming in.
And when in active addiction, I couldn't maintain a job.
And saving and budgeting?
Oh, God.
You're doing that now.
Saving what? So, yeah, I can budget my money and make plans for the future and save money. I'm about to get a car. And
whoa.
And I'm projecting a pretty awesome path for myself. I hope to work in the recovery, substance abuse, mental health field. And so I'm paving my way for that. I'm laying a solid foundation right now. So that's the path.
That's the path of happiness, joy, and love. All right, so do you ever get an urge, and you ever get an urge to just kind of like, oh man, is this joy and love that you feel, is that overtaking the urge? Is that taking over that urge that you may get? Or even if you get one, maybe it's enough happiness and love in your life now where you're not even thinking or feeling that.
Of course I think about it sometimes. I'm an addict. I always will be. but
Good
I don't have to
answer.
live like that again, and I don't ever have to use again. I don't ever have to go to jail again, and the life I've built now is worth more to me, than getting high one more time.
Whoa.
And I can say it one more time, but if I touch it once, it's my life again. You know, there's no, I'll do it one more time and that's going to be it. And one more time might be it. With my drug of choice, there's a 50-50 chance every time I touched it, I could have died. And I was okay with that. So I have a life now that I value. I have people in my life that I love and value. I've built a life that's worth living.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So, Mom, how do you feel about this? About her saying how she feels presently.
It's good. I'm grateful and I appreciate it. And above all, I appreciate our relationship and being the privilege of going through this with her has changed me. It's strengthened me, and I know if something ever did happen again, I know I'll be okay and I'll be able to get through that. So I feel good. I feel like we're both on a good path, and this has become a heart and a passion of mine is to share our story to try to help somebody else.
All right. Now, we only have about 1 more minute, so let's talk a little bit about Plan B.
Right.
You know, so how they can get in contact with you and, you know, share, they may want to share their story. You
Yeah.
know, how do they get in contact with Plan B?
Okay, well, first of all, Plan B is on Facebook at Plan B, A Mother's Journey Through Addiction and Recovery, so you can find it there. We're also on Instagram at A Mother's Plan B, and then you can email us if you would like at planbformom@gmail.com.
And you can find us on YouTube by searching Plan B Addiction Recovery. Yeah.
All right.
So kind of 4 different ways to contact us.
All right, all right. This is great. I just want to thank you all both for coming in and sharing your story, letting the public know that there is help out there, and they are
there's
not the
hope.
only one that may be having problems.
Right. There's
Yeah.
help and there's hope, and you're not alone.
All right.
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh,
thank you, Ryal.
Yeah, you're
I
more than
appreciate it.
welcome. This has touched me more than you can even realize. All right. Well, that's been the Ryal Thomas Show, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. And if you have any questions or any concerns, please get in contact with Plan B, and maybe you can share your story or just listen to what they have to say. Thank you very much.